Well, I have solved AGI. All you need is a really big neural network and some basic local rule like Hebbian learning. And this network is basically AGI. That's it. I'll tell you how in this video. I'll try to make it short as possible because none of you have the attention span or the complete power of understanding, right? But anyway, I'm gonna try because hope this theory gets famous, right? Anyway, so first of all, uh, so remember this, right? All we need is like a really big neural network. So we have like 100 trillion connections, so maybe more, and consequently, a quadrillion different pathways or something, and then just a simple rule like a Hebbian rule, along with the combination of some other rules, makes it like really sophisticated system. So first of all, uh, so what will happen, and to this neural network, we just need to connect inputs and outputs randomly. So there is no error back propagation or reward reinforcement or any kind of a feedback or whatever. Um, so it's just this big neural network inputs and outputs. You get AGI. We will get AGI because, first of all, what is an AGI supposed to do? What is intelligence supposed to do? Well, initially I had this theory called impact maximization. Now I've kind of changed it a little bit to impact pioneering or novelty maximization, right? Uh, so, so to think about what intelligence does, you just imagine an empty space or just a big desert or just a huge ocean or whatever, right? Where there's no life or intelligence. So what do you see? You see the same simple stuff, same thing again and again. It's just sand or just water and waves. It's basically just that. It's very simple. It's nothing other than that. Or if it's an empty space, it's just empty space. And I mean, obviously there's like lots of different particles and waves and all those things that's traveling through. But imagine the ones that you can't detect, or imagine a vacuum or something where all these waves or particles are not present. So it's just simple stuff. But so now imagine life on it. Not too much of a sophisticated life, just basic life like plant life. So it's not very intelligent, but still what happens is there is more stuff now, right? So the plants grow on all different ways. You have different kinds of color, different kinds of shapes, different objects that are coming out. And those objects, they just grow. They're not just stationary, they just grow a little bit, and then they wither and fall down, and then they become like a pile of uh, you know um, fallen down leaves and rubbish and all that. And then they move, a little bit more movement and a little bit more sights and sounds and complexity and novelty compared to what was previously just empty soil or empty desert. So now imagine a little bit more advanced life forms like insects or birds or whatever. So they do a little more things, like they do more sophisticated sounds, like birds, yeah, I mean, sophisticated is the term that I would use. More sophisticated sounds and actions and whatnot. So you get more interesting shapes, more interesting objects, more interesting activity, all. And then now imagine humans in the mix. Humans build cities, nuclear bombs, this and that, clubs, and lights and different cars and rockets and whatnot. So there's a lot more really complex and sophisticated impact, a lot more novel and sophisticated impact that is created because of advanced intelligence like humans. So this is basically what intelligence is supposed to do: novel sophisticated impact, right? So that is what intelligence leads to. It is as simple as that. And so how do we, so this is what intelligence has to do, right? So it doesn't have to just stick to answering your prompts, or just stick to giving the generating an art for you, or it's not just one kind of thing. Intelligence is supposed to automatically expand its capabilities as you scale up. I mean, like, we've got like hundreds trillion connections, but we can also grow a bigger brain and all that if we eat healthy and all. So intelligence AGI has to have that potential to scale up and do so many different things based on all the inputs that it's exposed to. So you give ChatGPT something else other than a text, it probably won't respond to it, right? uh, or a text in a different language that it doesn't understand, or a music, or generally just a touch or whatever. ChatGPT doesn't respond to it. So intelligence has to uh, take in all kinds of input, and then try to create more novelty out of it, more novel actions, and more novel, uh, even concept. uh, it doesn't always have to be actions. Like when you say someone comes up with a really important theory, it's not exactly physical, but it's very intellectual, or sometimes very emotional, or there's different kinds of impact, not just physical, right? So an IGI is supposed to do that. So yeah, so what we have is just Hebbian learning capable of doing that. If you want to know how, you go through my paper. I've explained how Hebbian learning associates different things together, and it automatically results in a impact maximizing or a novelty maximizing way. Because if it sees the same thing again and again, the same pathways get stronger, and then activations flow to the output pretty quickly. And then when it flows to the output, it changes direction, or moves away from that spot, or goes and touches something, or tries to do something. Like, it takes action on the environment. So if it takes action on the environment changes, right? However, whenever it sees a new thing, like a really interesting, colorful thing that's just flopping around in front of the eyes or in front of the camera, it just suspends action for a while. That's what we do. Like when we see something new, we just look at it, just suspend every other thing, and whenever we have pleasure, we just uh, you know or whenever we are interested in something, we just suspend our output actions, and we just look at it. That's it. So this thing I've actually explained a lot more in the white paper and the videos and all that, but no one really has bothered to watch it. I mean, people have, but I mean, all I'm saying is that you can explore a little bit more if you're kind of interested in why just a simple Hebbian rule gives so much. So, like I said, it's not necessarily Hebbian rule. It can also be other things. Basically, just as to the neural network and the local rule has to associate all the inputs, percepts it's getting, different kinds of percepts it's getting. It all has to register it and then associate it with one another, and then also just cause a diversity of outputs. And the diversity of outputs comes from, like I said, the 100 trillion connections and quadrillion different pathways in which activation flow can happen, and that's how you bring the diversity of output action in the system. So a simple neural network with a Hebbian rule would do that. And there's also, like I said in the paper, it's not just Hebbian rule for the weight updation, but also different things for activation, whether you want the activation to decay or maintain as the same level, or what about the learning rates of different neurons. You can, so many different things I've sort of mentioned in the paper, but the basic gist of it is just a huge neural network with some local rule like a Hebbian rule. And basically it has to be able to associate and register percepts, and it will automatically lead to a complexity and a diversity and a sophistication in activation and thought and output actions. So that is what is required. Um, so yeah, that is it. So basically everything we do some kind of an impact, right? So initially I used to have this thing called impact theory because I started from the most basic of particles, right? So whether it's any kind of lepton or boson or whatever. So a particle is basically just a couple of force components that a point in space has relative to the other points in space surrounding it. So that is what is a particle. So it has got a little bit of an extra impact potential compared to the other points in space surrounding it. That's what a particle is. um, so if you extrapolate that, every single particle that exists, every single forms, whether it's a basic non-living thing or kind of a living thing, it is all there to it is all just a more grander level of impact making, and intelligent living things make more of an impact compared to a non-living thing. So this is what my initial theory was. But now going but it's just kind of rewording it a little bit. It's the same concept. Intelligent things do take make a lot more of impact, but I mean it can't be saying it out of intensity wise, right? So more of a novelty wise we make more of an impact. That is what I can say, because a non-living thing like a nuclear bomb or something, that's got more high intensity uh, impact that it can make, right? So what intelligence does is more novel and sophisticated impact. That is what intelligence is. Because I don't think, I mean, non-living things make a simple impact, and it may, so the amount of energy is, you can't create more energy and more impact, right? So I mean living things don't really generate extra energy or extra impact. It's just different. It takes the percepts from the world, which are again different kinds of force and impact. In a way, it takes that and it creates something new. That's what intelligence does. It doesn't just throw out the same thing back to the world. Intelligence kind of modifies it and throws out a different thing, makes a different, a novel thing. So it's not a bigger impact, but a novel, more sophisticated impact. So uh, yeah, I mean if you think about impact and energy being kind of analogous, so a living intelligence makes more novel impact. So like I said, just a simple Hebbian rule would do, and you can make it more complex by adding so many different parameters and learning rules and additional formulas. And uh, the key thing is it has to be a really large and stable system. Obviously living things, they're not exactly stable, right? So we have the brain and 100 trillion connections, but we need to, it has to constantly survive, and the brain cells should not deteriorate and reduce in size or whatever, right? Or should not die of old age or whatever. And computers can do that. So we can have not just billions of neurons, but trillions of neurons and quadrillion connections, or even more. We can keep on building more and more machine intelligence, and they can definitely scale up to super intelligence. And all you need is the size, that size and some basic rule like Hebbian. So, and like I said, basic Hebbian rule alone will give interesting behaviors, um, because trillions of connections and so many levels of uh, you know things getting associated, and so much thought getting generated, so much activation flowing and all that. So that is what it is. So just fucking try to understand it. So I've been saying the whole same thing for about 3 years. Check out my other videos as well, but it's just that no one seems to get it. Um, uh, and Yeah, I still haven't managed to be able to code a prototype because I just don't have the funds or the energy to do all that. But the only thing is, if you have the brains, just the white paper, the concept should be pretty straightforward. I don't have to, create a novelty detector prototype, which is pretty basic. And even then, if you don't get the idea, you won't be impressed with that. So, but anyway, I have fucking solved AGI. I have solved it some 3 years back, and a guy like me doesn't get the attention, unless fucking you're in. Yeah, I mean, only certain people get the attention. For the rest of us has to really prove something. So, well, I mean, what I mean is like what is this reward is enough paper? It got so much attention, but ultimately, they said, okay, maybe reward is not enough. But it got so much attention just because some guy, Richard Sutton, from a known university, came up with a paper. So if yeah, that's just some concept that he came out with, but then those papers got all the attention, and some papers like mine don't get the attention for. So, and I'm not gonna try to bother publishing research paper to impress all the gatekeeping academics out there. So, I mean, the idea is here, plain and simple. It's just you should be able to just take it. You should have the brains to understand it, and then uh, I mean, if you have $1 billion and you can have your own supercomputer and engineers to work with, you can easily create AGI right now. Any government, any any person with like a couple of $1 billion to spend can create AGI now. Like AGI in the sense like at a really impressive level, not just fish level or worm level, but uh yeah, I mean, it's not. The other thing is, it's not going to take millions of years, right? Because we all start out, we do have our basic instincts, right? Seeking food and this and that and all that. But like I said, even a basic Hebbian uh, neural network has an instinct to maximize impact from day one or from the first few iterations. So that instinct to maximize an impact is there. So it's really just about learning. So we learn pretty much everything based on whatever we are exposed to. Although our brains are kind of little bit arranged, for prior to birth, uh, but the neocortex is pretty much uniform, right? So whatever, it's like a clean slate. You plug in random inputs to some section of the neocortex, and then that part becomes working exclusively. I mean, what I mean is, you can change the auditory neocortex and visual neocortex, if you just rewire your organs and all that. So it's pretty flexible that way. And so what I mean is, just learning can be just within a few years, right? It doesn't have to take a really long time to learn. It's just whatever we are able to learn. If you're able to learn a language within like a year or so, I mean, I think even AGI can develop so much more capabilities within a year. All we have to do is just plug in everything and then expose it to all this training data, and it'll all shape up. Doesn't have to take millions of years. Just 1 or 2 years, we can get a really sophisticated AGI system.